Hello. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. God, I'm tired. You ever get to that point where you're just tired? It's because of my busy week, Warrior Teacher Week. We're doing lots of teaching. Okay, so straight to it today. Lesbians. Let's say it. Let's be proud. Lesbians. Right? Okay. There's a great letter that's gone off to Gillian Keegan, that Secretary of Education, who just, every time I see her, looks confused and dazed. Gillian, dazed and confused Keegan, Secretary of State for Education. And this has come from the lesbianalliance.org.uk. Again, the links are in the doobras for you to have a look. This is a good letter, and it's from a group of good people. Advice to schools on addressing gender identity issues. Now, you know as well as I do, I don't think it exists. It's just personality. And if they worked more on building a character, they wouldn't be stuck in the cult, would they? So this open letter to Gillian Keegan, Secretary of State for Education, dazed and confused. Advice to schools. Dear Gillian Keegan, I am writing to you on behalf of the Lesbian Rights Alliance and as a parent who has relatives attending schools. Concerns. We are very concerned that you are considering allowing children to socially transition and use different pronouns from their biological sex, provided they have parental permission. This approach contradicts the advice from the Cass Review, which state that schools should not support social transitioning, as if left alone, these children often change their minds about identifying as transgender. Schools which promote gender identity doctrine as fact may also become involved in lesbian and gay conversion therapy by telling children they have been born in the wrong body and referring them to the GIDS clinic for medical intervention. In addition, such referrals can be applied to children who are on the autistic spectrum and who do not understand the differences between biological sex and gender. Regarding parental consent, some parents may agree to supporting a child's change of identity in the mistaken belief that this will help their child. It's a great beginning. It's a great beginning to a good letter. And it mentions, of course, there the iatrogenic harm of social transition, but in addition, the gullibility of parents or those who are simply transhousen by proxy, who are going to hurt their children and seem to have forgotten that there are times, perhaps as a parent or even as an adult, when one has to be cruel to be kind. They continue. Very worryingly, the Policy Exchange report, Asleep at the Wheel, an examination of gender and safeguarding in schools, found that 72% of secondary schools teach that a child can be born in the wrong body, and that 69% require other children to accept this change of identity and to use their new pronouns. This is the enforcement of a new state religion. This is what it is. Your child is being asked to worship at the altar of gender in order to be accepted in the school because of one individual who's gone round the bend. It's not on. It's not on. And I think that we need to be very real about the fact that that figure of 72% is worrying. If it was 22%, it would be worrying. That's the problem. Now, going back a while now, Kemi Badenoch made it very clear in some educational advice to schools that born in the wrong body narrative should not be taught. But yet here they are, still doing it. What's wrong with them? So they're either incompetent or they're colluding with the transgender lie. Which is it? That's what I want to know. Further, they continue, as the Minister for Women and Equalities, Kemi Badenoch, has pointed out in her letter to the Ofsted Chief Inspector, allowing teachers to promote such contested beliefs about gender identity as fact indicates a breach in the political impartiality law that schools are required to conform to in Articles 406 and 407 of the Education Act 1997. I would add to that, just being me, that it also breaches the public sector equality duty, because if you're supporting that, you are supporting the idea of gender identity. You're actually causing discord with homosexuals. And obviously people who have written this are lesbians, so they're homosexual. In that gender identity, trans identity, all of that comes with it, is of course profoundly homophobic and is conversion therapy by the back door. Kemi Badenoch also recognises in her letter that the promotion of such beliefs on gender identity doctrine as fact indicates gross breaches of existing legislation, whether of equality law, safeguarding guidance, or their impartiality duty. So across the board they're breaching regulation and laws. You may not be aware, but since the mainstreaming of the teaching of gender identity doctrine in school education, statistics from the GIDGE clinics have shown that there's been a massive increase in the referrals of children for medical intervention, with over 5,000 children being referred in 2021-22. These statistics apply specifically to girls, who form at least 2/3 of the referrals. Moreover, a large number of referrals include children on the autistic spectrum. And that's an excerpt there from, a reference to Hannah Barnes' excellent book, Time to Think, published in 2023. Changes to advice to schools. Your advice to school. Your advice needs to recognise that it is not discriminatory or unlawful for schools to have sex-based rules. This includes sex-based language. For example, it is not discriminatory to refuse to refer to a girl who might identify as a boy as he. The child is a girl, and it is not direct discrimination to continue to call her a girl. Moreover, as pointed out by the Sex Matters group, you remember, of course, Maya and Helen and the other good people at Sex Matters, every child recorded on the school roll is recorded on the basis of their sex. Their sex is important to know when applying sex-based rules, as laid down in the Equality Act 2010. Schools are required to have single-sex toilets for children aged 8 and above, changing rooms and accommodation on school trips, as well as single-sex sports, where applicable. The next heading is safeguarding. The only lens. Knowing a child's sex is key for safeguarding children, for example, through providing single-sex toilet facilities for girls and protecting their right to privacy when menstruating. However, the disturbing findings in the recent Policy Exchange report on secondary schools found that 28% did not have single-sex toilets. You know, when people say to me, yeah, it's not happening, it's just nonsense, you're just a tin-hat madman. Really? If it was 18%, it would be a problem. If it was 5%, it would be a problem. They're not supposed to have them. 19% did not provide single-sex changing rooms. My God. And 60%, and 60% had mixed-sex sports. All of these deviations from the law contribute to a lack of safeguarding and have resulted in sexual assault by boys on girls forced to use mixed-sex facilities, as happened in 2 Essex schools. We welcome the report, Sexual Harassment and Abuse of Female Students and Staff, a Serious Problem in Education, from the Women Inequalities Committee, published today. This was today being the 5th of this month, July, and the recommendations that schools and colleges should be funded to end the sexual harassment of girls and young women. However, under the government, unless the government can provide funding for single-sex toilet facilities in schools that do not have them, or order these schools to change their policies to provide these facilities, we fear that such sexual harassment will continue. We are aware that the Prime Minister has been sent a letter from 5 girls who do not have access to single-sex toilet facilities or single-sex changing rooms in their schools, and that this is a real problem for many girls who are in schools where such facilities are not available. In this situation, sexual harassment of girls is likely to continue. These idiots, have you ever met a teenage boy? Further, we understand that you have been sent an open letter from 2 teenage girls aged 14 about the teaching of gender identity doctrine as fact in their schools, and the failure of teaching staff to recognise or allow any critique from students who do not agree with these facts. These girls have indicated that they are too afraid to speak out about this, as when it happened, they are bullied and ostracised by other students and been reprimanded for referring to biological sex. It's crackers, isn't it? It's just absolutely crackers. Where's the government? Come on, peeps. The impact on primary schools is the next heading. We think it is important to address the impact of teaching gender identity doctrine in primary schools and early years education in regarding to safeguarding. This is outlined in a Spectator article by Joanna Williams, link in the article there for you. Many schools tell Year 4 children aged 7 to 8 that they must understand different genders, as well as various different sexual practices, such as what pansexual means. Pansexual. Does that mean you've got a Teflon fanny? Or a Teflon knob? I have to say both, because otherwise I offend the men, or the women. So I'll say both. Teflon knobs and fannies. Is that what it's about, is it? Right? Pansexual. Bog off, you bunch of tossers. The article points out that girls in particular are negatively impacted by the sexist teaching of gender identity ideology and confusingly get defined as transgender if they do not conform to sexist stereotypes. And there it comes. That's the gay conversion therapy. Schools are practicing gay conversion therapy. Where's the government? This is an election winner, Rishi. Wake up. Smell the coffee. Get that war chest ready. Ignoring guidance is the next heading. You will probably be aware that the DfE issue non-statutory planning guidance to schools on the teaching of LGBT issues as part of their new sex and relationship curriculum in 2020. However, most of this guidance has been ignored by many schools. Two important issues apply in this regard. Firstly, when teaching topics involving gender and biological sex, the guidance states that schools should not reinforce harmful stereotypes. For instance, by suggesting that children might be a different gender based on their personality and interests or clothes they prefer to wear. Resources used in teaching about this topic must be age-appropriate and evidence-based. Secondly, schools should not work with companies which produce material which suggests that non-conformity to gender stereotypes should be seen as synonymous with having a different gender identity. They shouldn't be teaching gender identity at all, except as the cultist is, and in a historic manner, because we're going to end it. Clearly, this advice has not been followed in several schools, and in our own view, this illustrates why gender identity doctrine should no longer be taught, as it prevents schools from keeping children safe. Moreover, gender identity itself is not a protected characteristic of the Equality Act 2010, and nor should it ever be. They didn't say that, I did. That's just me having a blast. Right? Its promotion ignores other protected characteristics such as sex, sexual orientation, and disability. The protected characteristic of gender reassignment applies to adults only. It does not apply to children, as children are not allowed to apply for a gender recognition certificate. We hope you will take account of your concern in giving advice to teachers on this important issue. Yours sincerely, Dr. Lynn Harn, on behalf of the Lesbian Rights Alliance. Now, if you've been paying any attention over the last couple of days, you will have noticed, I'm not implying you didn't, by the way, that you will have noticed that there was a school in Manchester in which a number of parents turned up outside to protest, and that Peter Tatchell called Muslim extremists. This is a lie. I have read the articles about this individual protest, and I've reached out to try and contact the organiser. What these people were asking for was nothing but reasonable, and nothing that any other parent in the country wouldn't ask for. The gentleman who stood up with a microphone, not microphone, what do I mean? Not boombox. What do they call it? Extended mouth. Amplifier. Foghorn? I don't know. Said, we understand the 9 protected characteristics. I've said this before. We understand the 9 protected characteristics. They're worried that they're teaching children gender identity, queer theory nonsense, which they are. The LGBTQI+ has nothing to do with gays and lesbians. Nothing whatsoever to do with gays and lesbians. They've just colonised every organisation that we ever put together. They've colonised our history, which they lie about constantly, and now they're colonising your schools, organisations like university, the police, the NHS. It's a cult. Okay, that's what it is. And it needs to end, and the only people that can end it are Parliament. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to end up with a Labour government. If you think things are bad now, you wait. You wait. Because you have no idea how bad it can get. That's my thinking. You have no idea how bad it can get. With the back end of the corporations and the back end of the government. Big capitalism, big corporatism meets big government. You know what that's called, don't you? Fascism. It's a cult. Brilliant letter there. Thank you very much for that. And thank you to all for listening, even to my tin hat bit at the end. You go and have a great day. It's good to talk to you. Bye-bye.